Hey, what's going on, guys? Wanted to give my 2 cents on this. By the way, how are you, meatballs? I want to talk to you today about Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War Zombies and the Easter eggs, and more specifically, I'm getting more specific by stepping out. Call of Duty Zombies as a whole, and I'm scared for it in its entirety. And it's because of something that you may, at face value, look at and say this is a good thing, but in reality, it's not, and it's proven to not be on multiple different levels. Just think before we get into anything. You know what? Let me just read this to you, and then we'll go over the example. So this is directly from Treyarch Dev. Wait, hold on. I'll just read you the one thing I want to read you, then we'll talk. So one of the concerns Call of Duty Zombies players have had with the cooperative mode, which is zombies, in recent times are its Easter eggs and how to accomplish them. These usually enrich the overall storyline of Call of Duty Zombies and are sought after by the community through Easter egg hunts, all that stuff. We're usually always very excited for these Easter eggs. This is an obvious thing that they're stating thus far, but they go on this article by IGN India. I don't remember if I mentioned that, but this is an article by IGN India with some Treyarch Zombies devs. They go on to say, we wondered if Treyarch would use Season 2 to change how Easter eggs worked. And spoiler alert, they didn't. But here's a direct quote. On this project, we've actually made it a mission to make Easter eggs more accessible, or what we call them, the main quest, says Corky Lemkulk. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but Corky, he's the studio creative director at Treyarch. You guys already saw him in a previous Zombies reveal video. Corky legend. But anyways, he says, there are some side Easter eggs that are still somewhat obscure and you'll have to find, but for the main quest, we wanted to make more players able to experience it. Now, what exactly is wrong with that, right? There's not too much. You know what? Let me read this other thing, by the way. Hold on. According to Corky, the reason for this is to ensure more players experience all of what Zombies has to offer. He goes on to say, this is a direct quote from him once again, so much development time goes into these things. And if you look at the metrics, less than 2% of the players were actually seeing that stuff unless it was shown on YouTube, he says. If you look at YouTube now or Reddit, a lot of people are completing their first Easter eggs ever. And they've been with the franchise for the full 10 years, for a full 10, 12 years. Okay, so that's a direct quote from Corky, right? Those are some direct quotes from Corky. And basically, overall, what he's saying is that they are trying to expand Zombies to everybody. They know that they have that hardcore group of Zombies players, and that's kind of like what the side Easter eggs are for. There are some really obscure side Easter eggs that really involve thinking and a lot of hard work to solve. That's what they're hinting at. That's what they're talking about. And that the main quest, they definitely want some aspect of that, but they want people to be able to figure it out by themselves without the aid of a YouTube video, because for the most part, that's how most people do, solve their Easter eggs or get their Easter egg information. And that's true. That's 100% true. I can't disagree with that. That is a fact. But at the same time, I don't necessarily know if he's just saying that because that's the route Activision wants him to take, because that overall will benefit them the most, at least according to, at least in Activision's eyes. And we're gonna get into a big discussion about this now, or if that's the route they actually want to take for the sake of the game's sake, because there will be a little bit of a difference. There's a difference between kind of being forced to do something and kind of owning up to it, and between wanting to do something and going for it, if that makes sense. And on that note, I just want you guys to think, what happened when we took a game like Fortnite, right? Just even if you don't like Fortnite ever, take a game like Fortnite, an explosive, really fun game, and you apply something that's supposed to help the casual player to it. What am I talking about? Skill-based matchmaking. You take Fortnite, you slap skill-based matchmaking on it, and all of a sudden it becomes an even worse sweatfest as time goes on. And to the casual player, and even a lot of hardcore players, it's just not all too fun. Same thing goes with a game like Warzone. And I think the best example of it all is if you're in the COD community, which I am, although I'm mainly a Zombies guy, I myself have even experienced this, and a lot of my friends, and especially a lot of my YouTube friends, skill-based matchmaking in multiplayer, it is absolutely atrocious. And I would even go as far to say that it is ruining Call of Duty and ripping the franchise apart. And the numbers may not necessarily say that, right, in terms of the way sales have been going, because Modern Warfare, I believe, was the best selling Call of Duty of all time, if I have that correct. And Cold War is also performing pretty well as well, although it's lacking content. People are having issues on that front. Call of Duty has been doing pretty well over the last 2-3 years, and that's just due to them implementing skill-based matchmaking, not so much due to the content implemented within the games themselves, because we haven't seen much new great content. Spoiler alert, sorry to say it, but we haven't seen much great content from Call of Duty over the last 2 years, in terms of MP especially. And that's the game where they're really gaining and really, harnessing their max potential. And of course, that's rooted mostly in the free-to-play battle royale Warzone Warzone. That's kind of where a lot of this stem from. But getting back to it, them looking at their numbers, seeing that skill-based matchmaking is actually somehow helping people or helping them retain a player base and get even more players to the game, that gives them more reason to go ahead and continually, you know, dial up skill-based matchmaking, even if it's in different ways, if that makes sense. And overall, what is the effect for them? It's a positive in their eyes because they seem to make more money off of it. It's a financial gain. But it seems like that nobody, at least in the vocal COD community, meaning on YouTube, on Twitter, and stuff like that, actually really likes skill-based matchmaking. Like, there's some people like myself who, you know, it's there. Do I care all too much? No. Is it annoying still? Hell yes, it's very annoying. And what's even more annoying is to see people complain about it. Not because it's something dumb that they're complaining about, but because it's a legitimate issue that seemingly has gotten no, like, not even a nod from Call of Duty, Activision, Treyarch, you know, Infinity Ward. None of them have acknowledged it at all. And that's what's even more annoying and tiring. And this isn't a video about skill-based matchmaking. This is a video about Call of Duty Zombies and the direction of it, but I'm using that to then compare it to Zombies. So I talked about Fortnite, I talked about Call of Duty and how SBMM is kind of affecting Call of Duty as a whole, because overall it's having a positive effect on the kind of player base, but a negative effect kind of, I mean, on the vocal community, on the people who seem to actually care full-heartedly about the game. It seems to really, you know, drive us away. And that I know that's only one thing, and a PvP game is definitely different from PvE, right? But I think you can still apply at the most basic level the same kind of principles of SBMM to this change that they're making to Zombies. So again, you take SBMM, you throw it in a game like Fortnite, you throw it in a game like multiplayer or Warzone, and that may overall help the numbers per se, but for the people who actually care and love the game and actually play it day in and day out, it's not necessarily the change or a necessary change that they wanted. And at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to suck it up because there's nothing we can really do about it when they're seeing success on their end in terms of financial gain, right? And I'm not saying that they're greedy, because it's and if you think this, then you're wrong, because they're not really greedy. They're just doing what works. In order to have a successful business, you have to do what works. That's exactly what they're doing. And although it sucks for us, the hardcore community, although I'm not a hardcore MP player, that's just the way it is. And now finally, we're 8 minutes into the video, tying this back into Zombies. Why is this a really big issue, and how am I applying this to Zombies? So again, we slap the SBMM onto those free-to-play games, like I said, and even MP, like I said, right? And it's annoying, although it's providing them with financial gain, it's still annoying the real hardcore players, it seems, right? And it seems to be that it's going to be trend the same way for Zombies. So SBMM is not the same as making Easter eggs easier. Definitely not. But basically the point of that was to cater to everybody. And now what we're doing in this, or with this kind of revolutionized version of Zombies, is we're catering to everybody now. That wasn't always the point of Zombies. The point of Zombies was to go out there and make an amazing map with an awesome vibe, some awesome wonder weapons, you know, throw the game's guns in the box, on the walls and stuff like that. I think Cold War does a great job in terms of that stuff. But then in terms of the depth of the map, there's supposed to be some side Easter eggs that are really cool, complex, right? Even think to Infinite Warfare Zombies, you had full-fledged side quests with Ghosts and Skulls. But take it back, dive back to Black Ops 3, you know, Go Rod Crovey, you have the Monkey Bomb upgrade. And the main quest, you had that, which was an explosive time for the Zombies community alone because it was Black Ops 3. But just think about the Easter egg hunts themselves. Think about how much fun those Easter egg hunts were themselves. And once the Easter egg was solved, and if anybody wanted to do it without actually watching a video, they still had to watch a YouTube, or they probably wouldn't be able to. They would have to watch a YouTube video because those hunts were community hunts. Those hunts that weren't catered, I have to stop using the word hunts, because although having long Easter egg hunts are really good, those are only temporary. And at the end of the day, that's the fact of the matter. Despite me wanting long hunts, that's kind of irrelevant for right now. Having great Easter eggs is the most important thing, but most importantly, bringing the community together. And the reason why I want to stop talking about hunts, but I keep bringing it up, is because the hunt brings the community together. Not even necessarily the longer the hunt, but the better the hunt. Think of an Easter egg like Go Rod Crovey or even Alpha Omega, like that. I can just picture just sitting down in the summer, just watching somebody like Noah J456, JC Backfire, like those guys back then, right? And just watching them complete the Easter egg for the first time, watching the community kind of go together and kind of tell them to try different things. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen right now, but it was more when the Easter eggs were longer and when the Easter eggs were more in depth, not just longer, but more in depth. And by longer, I don't mean longer to solve. I mean actually longer in terms of the amount you have to do. And each step was more in depth. It made it more interesting to watch and to do yourself when you're completing it. Now it just feels like there's a lot of cool steps. Don't get me wrong. The FIREBASE Easter egg right now in Cold War Zombies is very awesome. Like, I love to go through it quickly, to speedrun it, if you will. But there's still something something missing. It just feels like it doesn't have a lot of depth. And I would honestly compare this Easter egg in terms of the flow, and I'm sure there would be speedrunners out there that would completely disagree with me, but in terms of the general flow and kind of quickness of this Easter egg, I would kind of compare it to DE in a way, because I feel like everything just flows and there's not too much I mean, there is a lot of back and forth in terms of quotes, but there's not too much randomness, right? You kind of know what you're doing. You can kind of just flow through all the steps with ease, and that's whether you're doing the build percentage Easter egg version of it, meaning you build the wonder weapon, or you're getting the wonder weapon out of the box, or challenges, however you may get it, other than building it. And there's a lot of flow to it, and that's great, but there's just not as much depth in that Easter egg as there is even in a Drak Easter egg. Even though Drak is most comparable, I believe, to FIREBASE, there's not as much depth. Think of an Easter egg like Setsubo Onoshima as well. Think about how much you have to do, and I'm not saying that a lot of steps in this is necessarily good, but a lot of depth I feel like is a sweet spot for zombies, and that is just what the Easter eggs in Cold War Zombies are missing. And again, coming back to my point, since they're catering to casual players, it seems like that they're going to continually miss the marker there, that they're not going for depth, they're going for simplicity. A puzzle, but a simplistic one at that, not very in depth, nothing ever along the lines, once again, of, again, going back to Gorod Krovi, Noah hunting, Milo sitting on his PC. Listen, I don't know where he pulled this word out of. I don't know if he got told something. I don't know if he, if he actually thought of it. At the time, it was really awesome to just see Noah hunting. He had to put a password in the computer. He said a 5-letter word and whatever. And I think he said, yeah, just a 5-letter word. And Milo pulled the word Kronos out of his ass. Again, we're not going to debate where that came from, but that was a really awesome time to watch this, watch Noah hunting, watch the Valve step be hunted, right? All these in-depth steps be hunted, and then finally get solved, bang, then you move on to the next in-depth step. And you know what I mean? Like, there's just something to that. And of course, that's just the hunt alone, but when the hunt's over and you're watching a YouTube video back, there's just a different vibe to it, whether you're the person making the guide like myself, or even making the guide and doing the Easter eggs, or just straight up doing the Easter eggs, just doing the Easter eggs while watching it, whatever the case may be. If you're doing the Easter egg in a game like Black Ops 3, it's just a different experience than it is or would be in Cold War Zombies, because the Easter egg is a lot more in depth. It requires a lot more attention as well, I think you could say. And you actually feel like you're doing stuff, if that makes sense. You actually feel like you're completing things. You're actually changing things, if that makes sense. You're not, I'm not really sure if I'm scratching the surface that I want to scratch here with the way I'm explaining this, but you're actually completing a quest. You're actually doing something. Like if you're going to escape a map, it feels like you're going to actually escape a map. What exactly the steps you do in Gorod Krovi entirely have to do with the end goal on the map are up for debate, but each and every single step definitely feels like it has I don't know, it holds weight. I don't want to necessarily say it holds meaning, because sometimes there's pointless Easter egg steps like Revelations with the rock step, because although that did have meaning, and the meaning was to stretch out the Easter egg hunt, I mean, I don't know, it has weight. It holds weight to it. I guess that's the best way I can put it. There is something behind each and every single step, it feels like, in the Easter eggs within Black Ops 3, and kind of even in Black Ops 4 Zombies, although you can definitely tell the transition from BO3 to BO4. BO4's Easter eggs were kind of like the midpoint between BO3 and Cold War. BO3 was like, it felt like, in terms of, just hunting and figuring out the Easter egg at first, those were the real hunts. And we're going to ignore the non-Treyarch games, right? Going to BO4, that kind of still existed, but eventually, as we went on to kind of the later Ether maps, to Alpha, Omega, and Catered, Toten, we started to see this kind of Cold War vibe where we had that character tell us and kind of guide us on what to do step by step, shortening the Easter egg hunt, which again, by the way, although I'm not a fan of them telling us step by step what to do, if they want to do that for the sake of catering to the casual player, I'm kind of okay with that. Like, if they want that to be what they do to satisfy the casual player, to allow them to complete the Easter egg a little bit easier, I'm kind of cool with that. But then there's two separate things. One, maybe introduce a hardcore Easter egg like World War II Zombies had. We had a casual and a hardcore Easter egg. The casual one was guided in the Final Reich, right? This is only for the Final Reich. Then the hardcore one was one that was not guided. It eventually split away from the casual Easter egg. Now, you can either do that or keep everything exactly the same how it is, and instead just kind of like, just keep the Easter eggs the same and remove the actual characters telling us what to do. There's no need to lock the Easter eggs. There's no need to do anything different. Just remove the characters telling us exactly what to do. But if they want to, I believe the overall solution here is, if we were to come to one, if we were to come to some kind of truce, some kind of compromise with Treyarch over this, right, in terms of the hardcore players and the really, really casual ones, it would be to keep those guys in. Keep guys in like Dr. Peck, like Ravenov and FIREBASE. Allow them to explain and kind of tell the Easter eggs steps the way they have, because I think that's pretty cool. It gives more insight and stuff like that, right? And although I'm more of a fan of the classical style Easter eggs, I think that's a solution to still have a harder, more in-depth quest. Meaning, if you want to pair steps like Gorod Crovy and deeper Easter eggs like Gorod Crovy, like even Zetsubo and Oshima for that matter, right? Those kind of deeper Easter eggs with more steps and more to them. If you want to pair that with characters kind of telling us what to do, I don't mind that as much than if you're going to have a map like Alpha Omega where the Easter eggs extremely basic and they tell you pretty much exactly what to do, you know, right from each step's completion. There's even lights corresponding to the amount of steps you have left. You know what I mean? I do think FIREBASE did do a better job, admittedly, at holding back the egg, and I keep saying this, that if the Easter egg released at the launch of the map, it would have definitely taken longer to solve. That's without a doubt, and I have a few reasons behind that. One, two of the items, Sergei's head and the essence trap, were able to be like forced or brute forced into the actual game itself, into the map itself, so people were able to figure out what to do with these items before the Easter egg was unlocked. They were not able to do anything with said items once they figured out what to do with them, but they were able to figure out what to do with them. So once we got to the step of the mimics, we knew immediately that we had to trap a mimic and what to do with them, and that step alone caused enough confusion even with that information out there and kind of leaked beforehand. So just think about how much longer the hunt would have been. I'm not saying it would have been a day long, but it would have definitely been at least like, I think like 6 hours, 6, 7, maybe 8 hours plus if we would have had, if we would have had the Easter egg launch with the map. And that it also goes to note that the Wonder Weapon took 6 hours to solve from launch as well. If the Wonder Weapon took 6 hours to solve by itself and people were focused or had split attention on the Wonder Weapon and the Easter egg itself, then I'm sure that, of course, the Wonder Weapon would have probably got solved a little bit sooner, but if you combine that with the Easter egg hunt at the same time, there's no way the Easter egg would have gotten solved in the 3 hours or however short it got solved in, right? It would have definitely taken longer. So on that note, I definitely think FIREBASE did a better job at kind of working the Easter egg in a better way than an Easter egg like Team Machina, because Team Machina we all knew was a bare bones Easter egg from the start. It was an introductory map with introductory everything, and that included the Easter egg and boss fight. FIREBASE had a fair boss fight, you know, it's definitely a step up, and or I should say a boss fight instead of an ending sequence compared to Team Machina, right? And it had a pretty cool Easter egg that flows very, very well. Is it as in depth as an Easter egg as Gorod Crovy or Zetsubo no Shima? Definitely not, but it did a pretty good job, especially considering that you have characters telling you everything you should be doing in the map. So again, I have to applaud it for that, but again, going forward, and I'm getting a phone call. I do want them to continue down the route that, if they can, continue down the route more so catering towards the hardcore player, because it seems like that if anything, like if you had to take a step in one direction, whether it's towards casual or hardcore, they definitely took a step towards the hardcore player with the FIREBASE Easter egg, forgetting everything we just talked about, right? Forgetting that they want to simplify everything and make it more accessible to as many people as possible. Just the fact that that the steps are a little bit, that there's a lot more steps, I should say, in this Easter egg, and there's just some stuff scattered around the map. That kind of stuff, that goes to show you that they're making it that they made this Easter egg, I should say, a little bit more hardcore than Team Machina, in which you pretty much just had to get Wonder Weapons, and everything was also told to you in that Easter egg, if that makes sense. So I feel like they're definitely taking steps in the right direction in all aspects of Cold War Zombies. The reason why I'm worried is because of what they said. If they didn't say this, I wouldn't honestly be worried. Is FIREBASE the greatest map ever? No, but it's definitely not a bad map. I think FIREBASE's Easter egg is awesome once again. I think it's very fun. I don't think it's awesome, because I think the Horizon Track Easter egg is awesome, to be fair, right? And I don't think it's better than the DE Easter egg, but I definitely think in terms of the flow, in terms of the amount of fun I have speedrunning it, I think it's actually comparable, in a sense. So I would rate it definitely below DE's Easter egg, for a few reasons. It would be a bit below it, but it definitely does a better job at climbing back to that level. So hopefully, again, my point of this video is to say that we really, after going over all the SBMM stuff, going over the quotes from Corky and the Treyarch devs saying that they want to simplify stuff and again cater more towards the entirety of the zombies community, my real message here is to just say that I hope that does not happen, and that if they do try to cater, that they do a better job at catering to them. And again, this is in no way to insult Treyarch. If anything, I think they're doing a better job as time goes on, although we only have 2 maps, to cater to the hardcore player. I mean, even Outbreak, for that matter, it could get pretty challenging. I mean, I know people are working it up to waves 100, but I mean, for the casual player, you know, it could be a pretty challenging mode. So I definitely think that they're heading in the right direction, although I'm not the biggest fan of Outbreak. I definitely do think that they're heading in the right direction. I think they just need to kind of rethink kind of the exact direction that they're taking. Like, I hope they're not locked in on 100% solidifying the route that they're in. I mean, even for that matter, they can just take away the prompts of picking up items in the map. For example, when you go around the map, you don't see a massive gold pop-up saying that, hey, this is an Easter egg part. You have to go around the map and find all 3 parts yourself. No glow, no nothing, none of that BS, right? The parts are just laid out and you have to find them. You have to work through different steps and stuff like that. And I think that's definitely a way to kind of deepen each Easter egg quest and not make it as simplified over the top, if that makes any sense, if any of this made any sense to any of you guys at all. Again, kind of finally summing this all up one last time. My main point of this video was to tell you guys that I'm scared for the future of Cold War Zombies if they proceed to go down the more casual route, but if they decide to kind of even just slightly modify their decision to make it extremely accessible to everybody, I think it would be better off for everybody in the Zombies community, because the hardcore players, they don't like it. I don't think I've seen one hardcore player, including myself, that loves, I can't say that they don't, you know, that they don't like it. Maybe they don't love it, right? They don't love the change of, you know, having characters in the map that we run back and forth to press square on to get quotes from, and then them telling us how to do the Easter egg steps. I think BO4 was bad enough, and I don't mean, you know, I don't mean that it was a bad game. I just think that it's kind of the line in terms of the amount of, you know, Easter egg information that the characters in that map and those maps gave us. And this, they're just taking it a whole step further. The direction FIREBASE is going in is definitely better, but hopefully that it continues to get better in terms of, at least from my perspective, the direction of BO3 zombies. If they, or BO3 or even BO4 for the matter, right? Where they kind of, again, some of the Easter eggs in BO4 were fine, but some of them, like, they really kind of explicitly stated what you have to do, and just not the biggest fan of that. I don't think anybody really is. But again, if that's their compromise for making the Easter eggs more in depth, if they can make a more in depth, a much deeper Easter egg, but still have them kind of tell the steps this way caters to casuals, I'm okay with trying that. This video was way longer than it should have been. 25 minutes, probably. Once I edit it down, it's going to probably be around 23. I'm very sorry. I know it repeated multiple times, but I just wanted to kind of sit down and have a talk about kind of everything and kind of just lay out my beans, if that makes sense. So hopefully you understand my perspective. If you have another kind of perspective, or if you have you agree, disagree, let me know down below in the comments. Nobody's gonna watch the video this far anyways. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. See you later. Take care. Yo, meatballs.
I've been